champion.
She did it under a great deal of pressure.
How about a perfect 10 lady? Mary Lou Retton.
It is absolutely incredible and surreal to be up here amongst just legends of my sport. I remember being a little kid and looking up to Nadia and Mary Lou and all of these athletes and thinking, there's no way I could ever do that. Watching the video and hearing what Bart has to say, it's surreal. Like, I can't get over it. I remember, I literally can't believe it. I remember last winter, I got a text from Nastia Lukin, and she said, Bart Connor just texted me. He asked for your number. He's going to call you. This is urgent. You need to answer. I thought I was in trouble. I don't know what happened. I remember getting a call. I was in the car, and it says Bart Connor. I answered the phone, and he starts talking, and I kind of got the sense that I wasn't in trouble. But he goes on to tell me that I'm being inducted into International Gymnastics Hall of Fame. But I remember ending that phone call, and I called my husband, and then I called my mom, and I called my dad. And after I hung up with everyone, I remember sitting in the car and just thinking, why do I deserve this? Like, this is for Nadia Comaneci, and this is for, like, the legends, not for me. And I say that not to try to be humble or belittle what it is that I've done, but I think now that I'm pregnant and really emotional and thinking about putting my child in gymnastics someday, it just dawns on me how lucky I was as an athlete to have the parents that I did, the community that I did, the coaches that I did, because when I look back on it, it seemed so easy. I don't say that in the context of it was easy, like the work was easy. There was blood, sweat, and tears. But it felt so easy to me because it was so much fun. You just see gymnasts get burnt out. You see 6-year-olds who are like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm training 40 hours a week. I'm going to private school or getting tutored. And it just doesn't make sense to me because I had such a different path. I had Chinese coaches. I was 3 years old when I started gymnastics. My parents put me in it because I was a little kid that cracked my head open because I thought I could fly and I would scale walls. They put me in a padded playground, which was gymnastics. Chow and Lee ended up opening a gym closer to our house, and it saved gas money and made more sense, so they moved me to Chow. I remember Chow's whole story was him and Lee were international elite gymnasts, and they had their lives taken away from them as children. They had to compete to put food on the table, and they couldn't be kids. And Chow and Lee's goal was to come to the United States and raise Olympians that were also children. So I would go to practice, and Chow is a giant child if you've ever met him, in a very good way. He's always giggling and smiling. But I would go to practice, and he would have bounce houses and like water slides. He'd be like, okay, if you finish practice, we can go do slip and slide, or we can go in the bounce house. If you finish your conditioning, I'll take the whole team to Dairy Queen. He would hear that I had a football game that I really wanted to go to, and he'd say, okay, if you're really performing well this week, you can miss Friday to go to the football game. He found out that I had prom coming up, and he's like, you're done for the weekend, go to prom. It was these stories that you don't hear of ever. You hear of people giving up everything in their life to be a gymnast, which is usually how it goes. And then you have my parents, who would get in arguments with Chow because they would say, Chow, I really think you should hold her back. Like, we usually have parents coming in saying, push her ahead, and my parents were like, no, hold her back. I would have practice on Saturday, and my mom would be like, are you sure you want to go? Like, we can go shopping, we can play hooky. I was blessed with such a surrounding of people who just had priorities that I was a child before I was this international competitor. All of these amazing things that you guys are saying about me is just a result of me being a child that loved what I did. And I remember being at the Olympics and truly competing for the first time. The all-around competition is where my heart and soul lied. I trained for the all-around. And it was the last event. I was on floor. Nastia Lukin went up before me. She had a beautiful routine. I saw her score come up. I knew she had won the all-around. I was the last person to go in the last event. And I remember Chow pulling me aside, and he said, I've taught you since day one that it's not about the scores. It's not about being here at the Olympics. It's not about the medal around your neck. It's about having fun. The whole world was already being told that, like, oh, she can't win gold, guys. And I could have cared less. I went out and competed the most beautiful, like, amazing routine, and I think that's how I remember it. But I just felt weightless. I was a child. And I remember finishing that routine and looking at Chow, and he's crying. And I was crying, I don't know why. I looked up into the stands and my parents were crying. And I just felt so proud of being the kid that I was, making my community proud. And so now that I'm pregnant, people always ask us, would you put your child in gymnastics? That's not really how my parents did it. They put me in gymnastics, yes, to make sure I didn't crack my head open. They encouraged me my entire life to just do what I love. Since they taught me that, I've traveled to countless colleges and elementary schools and gymnastics camps, and I preached to these kids. It's not about succeeding, even though society is telling you that success is the only thing that's worth working for. It's about truly having a passion for something. You have to have a passion and a love for something before you'll ever succeed. I thank you guys for giving me the reassurance with such an incredible honor that what I'm preaching is actually true, because I feel like that I can stand up here and say I wasn't working for gold medals. I was working because I loved my sport so much. I hope I can teach my kid that someday and it be a success for them as well.